What's up, everybody? This is Trey Biddy with hogsports.com. That's HAWG sports.com. Today we'll talk Razorback football, basketball, baseball as always. A lot of stuff going on kind of behind the scenes with staffers being hired, with assistant coaches being hired, and scheduling stuff going on. We'll talk about that and more. Pete Roulier and Keith Grayson both going to join us. It's all happening on Hog Sports Live. Before we get started, I want to apologize for the audio. For some reason on my computer, I didn't touch it, but the input got jacked all the way up for my microphone. So it's very hot, and we had to do some stuff post-production to fix that. So we got it fixed for next time, obviously, but it wasn't anything with the software, which is why I couldn't figure it out in show. So we got it fixed. Sorry about that. On with the show. All right, first I want to bring in Pete Roulier with Hog Sports. Pete does all of our baseball coverage, also chips in with basketball, football, and does some recruiting stuff. Keith Grayson is going to join us a little bit later. I want to ask you to like, share, follow, comment if you haven't done so already, and be sure to throw us 5 stars if you're listening on podcasts. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. Of course, there's Facebook Live and YouTube if you want to watch the show. But throw us a review. It helps us get our message out there. Okay, sounds like we're okay. Nobody's saying anything about the hot mic, but it looked like it was clipping for a minute. So first I want to jump into Turner Gill, Pete. This is an interesting hire because this is a guy that has head coaching experience, obviously was a great player also. He's executive director of student athlete and staff development. What is that?
Well, you're asking me what that is, and at first glance, I probably don't really know what that is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you what the University of Arkansas says. They say that Gill will provide direct oversight for football student-athlete programming designed to foster leadership, personal accountability, social development, academic direction, self-identity, and awareness, along with emotional intelligence. He will also provide guidance and development to the coaching support staff while engaging the Arkansas community and Razorback football alumni. So you read that and you probably still don't know what that means, right?
No. It sounds like he's there for moral support and guidance. Just an extra eye, I guess.
Well, he did retire from coaching last year, and he said he doesn't really want a coaching gig, so this is kind of perfect for him. And I mean, if anything, it's kind of one of those things where it's pretty cool to have Turner Gill, a former Heisman finalist. I mean, one of the most popular college football players. I don't know if I'd say of all time, but of course in the 80s. I mean, if you have a recruit in there, his dad was a big football fan back in the day, you can be like, hey, I think Arkansas is pretty cool. They got Turner Gill in there, and also he's got some pretty good recruiting accolades. He brought in Khalil Mack to Buffalo. I think that's his big one. Mm-hmm. Now an NFL superstar with the Chicago Bears. So, I mean, it's not a bad hire any way you look at it. Turner Gill is a big name, and who knows what he's going to be doing, right?
Yeah.
Something off the field, but I think you can't disregard what Morris has been doing. It's kind of the same thing with Musselman, just bringing in guys that kind of been attached to the pro level too. I mean, Turner Gill's been at the pro level, so it's not going to hurt, you know?
Yeah, no, I think anytime you can bring in a big name, that's probably an advantage. And, he's obviously got a lot of experience as a player and as a coach, obviously. I don't know that we've talked about Jimmy Witt yet, but Jimmy Witt committed to Arkansas last Monday, I guess. Was it Monday? Was it Memorial Day? Was that as soon as it was? Yeah, I think it was.
I'm pretty sure it was Memorial Day.
That's why we didn't talk about it,
on the
I guess.
holiday. Yeah, probably was what it was. What a story, though, right?
I know. So Jimmy Witt, I think most people are familiar with his story. He came to Arkansas under Mike Anderson, had a long-standing relationship with Mike Anderson from his time at Missouri, and then left after his freshman year. Not a great shooter, but a guy that's very athletic and does a lot of good things for you, and then left for SMU, played 3 years there, graduated, and now has returned back to Arkansas. ESPN ranks Jimmy Witt the number 22 immediately eligible transfer in the country. And Isaiah Moss, who Arkansas also has, is number 19. So, Jimmy Witt. What do you think about that addition? They got enough spot for him?
Well, no. That's something we can get into here in a little bit. But, no, I think Jimmy Witt, it's such an interesting story. And first of all, I'd like to say, if you watched him play as a freshman, you probably had some thoughts about, his confidence. He's probably throwing up some shots that he shouldn't have taken. But he's gotten better, right? Mm-hmm. He's averaging more points per game, and SMU's coach said that he's a point guard first, and that's really what he likes about him, and that's how he became – his basketball IQ is how he became such a good point guard in that league. And I think that Jalen Harris as a true point guard was great, but I think you get some creativity on the offensive end with Jimmy Whitt. He can kind of find his own shot, which is, I don't know about you, but I thought that was kind of lacking a little bit last year with the Arkansas roster.
See, I don't think that Jimmy Whitt's a great shooter from what I remember him here, and I like Jalen Harris. I think if Jalen Harris could develop a jump shot, then he could be really dangerous for Arkansas. I mean, he does really everything else well. It's just a matter of shooting. And I think he kind of – I was talking to Musselman a couple weeks ago about this, about reworking some players' shooting mechanics, because Jalen Harris kind of like – he brings the ball back and he like does this like weird cock back thing. And I tried shooting the ball like him one day, and it was just all over the place. So,
well, Jimmy Whitt doesn't have a pre-shot either.
No,
let me just say that's not what I was trying to say, that he's a great shooter, but he's kind of got this DeMar DeRozan kind of thing. That's kind of his NBA comparison, where he can kind of create a mid-range shot. And he did that as a freshman a little bit, but he's been hitting a lot more at SMU, so that's kind of encouraging. And same with Isaiah Moss. They kind of bring some offense to the – they have the ability to create their own shot, which if you think about Mason Jones, maybe he was the one that was the go-to guy when the shot clock was running down. So to have a couple more guys like that, I think is going to be a great addition.
You also had a good story on transfer guards should boost Arkansas offense, so you included Isaiah Moss. Isaiah Moss can shoot the ball, however, so you got a good mixture of guys back there, I think. And like we said, what is Arkansas at? Technically 15 scholarships right now. I think a lot of us assume that Khalil Garland will probably go on medical, or I don't know exactly, but he hasn't played in 2 years. There's no indication that he's going to be playing this year. But Arkansas's got one more player that's going to have to move on at some point. Clay Moser. We haven't talked about Clay Moser, who was he was former Los Angeles Lakers assistant coach last year. And Arkansas has dished out some money to these guys. So Chris Crutchfield, this is from Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. They got the report on this. Chris Crutchfield is going to be making $360,000 a year. That's up from $280,000 that he was making at Oklahoma. Corey Williams is making $250,000, and Moser will be making $200,000. So, and both the last two coaches are on 12-month renewable contracts, and Crutchfield has a 2-year deal. He's also the associate head coach, so a little bit money headed his way.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, you got to pay the guys if you want to come with a brand new staff, right? But I mean, if you look at it, it's kind of like an all-star staff. It's
a great staff on paper. There's no question about it. Crutchfield having all that background, with Oklahoma also, Corey Williams being a former NBA player, and having experience at Florida State and being a head coach, although not a lot of success, and then Clay Moser with the Los Angeles Lakers. And then you factor all that in with Musselman literally coaching on every single level.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's intriguing if you're a recruit. I mean, you're like, what level do you want to be on? You're not good enough to go to the NBA. I've coached overseas. I've been a player in the NBA. I've coached in the NBA. I mean, all these guys, and Crutchfield, just with his experience as a recruiter, it's a pretty impressive staff. I mean, that's as good a staff as you could hope for them to hire. You couldn't go out and say, man, I don't know. They just, at least on paper, who knows how things will play out, but on paper, it's a pretty good-looking staff.
Right. Somebody put it simply on Twitter, I think. They said, you got a guy that's played with Michael Jordan, and you got a guy on your staff that's coached LeBron James and coached Kobe Bryant. Those are probably like the three biggest names in basketball. Mm-hmm. I mean, to put it simply, that's one way to sum it up, right? Yeah. And that's a great recruiting tool to have, and not a lot of the schools have that in college basketball.
So, Pete, shifting gears a little bit to scheduling. So Arkansas has announced the SEC schedule for 2019-20. Anything jump out to you with Arkansas' schedule?
Yeah. Well, I think the schedule is that you got your hard games at home and you got your a little easier games away, right? Mm-hmm. And it's the six top finishers. Yeah, that's exactly what you want. You got the 6 top finishers in the league all coming here, and you can't really beat that draw.
Hey, he's got a lot of passion. He's got a lot of passion, and I think that's something that Arkansas has lacked a little bit with Mike Anderson. Mike was always very intense, but you didn't see just, the energy level, and you saw that with Musselman. It'll be interesting to see what he brings from Nevada to Arkansas, because he has talked about things being not gimmicky, but things that they had to do to really promote their program, like taking your shirt off and writing Mountain West Conference champs on your belly, and Just something like the Globetrotters warm-up thing. I don't know that that's something they'll be bringing to Arkansas, but I wish they would. I love the Globetrotters warm-up. I don't think it's a detriment doing the Globetrotters warm-up. Like, do you really lose anything by warming up to the Globetrotters?
I feel like he's very aware of what works and what doesn't work.
Yes.
He's been at it for a long time, and I think he knows what fans react to and what players react to, and he's probably going to gauge it out a little bit, but, I could definitely see him bringing it in, and he's not going to take it too far, but he knows when to go crazy and when to reel it in, so I think it'll be fun to watch this season.
Let's just talk about the regional, super regional, and what lies beyond possibly.
I think it was a pretty good draw for Arkansas. Cal was a pretty decent 2 seed with a top 4 Golden Spikes player, but TCU really stuck in the field. That nobody really expected TCU to get in, so for them to become the Fable, that's a big win in that regard. I expect Arkansas to take care of business today, and then maybe we'll talk about it further tomorrow. And then, after that, if you ask me what's further on, if Arkansas wins next week, they'll be playing the Super Regional, and they'll be playing Ole Miss. Ole Miss, the winner of the Ole Miss Regional, I'm sorry. But that's an intriguing one, too, because Ole Miss is the only team that's came into Baum Stadium and actually beat Arkansas in a series this year. So that'll be fun to watch out for, so keep your eye on that. Okay,
Pete Roulier joining us from hogsports.com. That's HAWGsports.com. Pete does all of our baseball coverage, basketball, football, and helps in with recruiting and everything like that. All right, Pete, appreciate you, man.
All right, thanks, Trey. Bye.
All right, that was Pete Roulier. I'm going to go ahead and go straight into Keith Grayson. We'll get some fan feedback on some things that are going on with Razorback Athletics.
Trey Biddy.
What's up, Keith? You're on live with Hog Sports Live. What's shaking?
Nothing, man. Are you doing okay? You've had kind of a rough week. You misreported that Justice Hill information.
I did not. Man, you'd be surprised how many people come to me and had mistaken me for the wrong Trey. Yeah, I did not. I had a great week, Keith. I did not have a bad week. I had a great week.
What I've learned out of that is do not name your kid Trey, because it's going to get confused with another Trey very easily, apparently, even if you have different last names.
Dude,
Isn't it ironic, too, that people are mad at him, mad at you for having wrong information, but they're wrong?
Yeah.
That is dripping with irony.
Speaking of wrong, yeah. Most people named Trey are not named Trey, by the way. They have another name. They're the third. And a lot of people don't know that. It's super confusing. I always tell people, just give your kid a name and let them go by it, because I have to sign documents and stuff all different kinds of ways, and I know every other Trey does too. So, Keith, you got a plane to catch here. You're boarding at 11:10, is that right?
Yeah, Arizona time. You said I'm calling at 10:50, and you called
okay.
at 8:50. So you have been wrong like 3 times this week.
I hate when radio people do that and they contact me from another time zone and they give me their time zone, and it screws me up. And here I have done that to you.
It's all right. I'm in my office, so I got a little time. I just have a guy that doesn't speak English at the door wanting payment for something, so I'm waiting for my translator to get here at 9 o'clock. The phone's ringing. It's Home Depot. I haven't picked up anything, so we're good. I just ignore all the things that I have to do today because I'm heading, like you said, I'm heading out to Denver, meeting up with our boy Joe Nichols. His tour is heading through. He's playing with the Grizzly Rose tomorrow in Denver, Colorado. So meet up with him and some other Razorback fans. I don't know what time does the game start tomorrow if we are in the winners bracket.
Oh, I haven't even looked at it for tomorrow. Couldn't tell you. I think we're at 1 today, right?
Yeah, 1 today, and I have a terrible feeling about this entire thing. So not the I want everybody to kind of keep things in check, but everybody the entire season has been Omaha or bust. We're going back to the College World Series and talking all this up, and it's just setting up for a huge disappointment. Even when the team really wasn't preseason, they weren't expected to make it that far,
Which is a shame that Dave Van Horn didn't win SEC Coach of the Year, given all of that. Hey, Keith, I wanted to, real quick, there's people who don't know who you are, and I just wanted to mention that real quick. You've been a poster on our board a long time. I'll let you say your username.
I'm Whiskey Drunk, or I did go under Nerdixo Y or something like that. Is Whiskey Drunk backwards?
I think you should go with Whiskey Responsible now that you're a little older.
I I think I should go with something else, but you probably don't want me talking about it on the
air. Okay. All right. We'll talk about that in private.
I've mellowed out a little bit. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Hence the trip to Denver.
Keith is the former disgraced president of the Arizona Razorback Club, following debauchery in Dallas, where you were removed from that position, and does real estate, multi-housing. Is that right, in Arizona?
I flip houses like those dudes on HDTV, except what I do
What's your YouTube channel? You have a YouTube channel where you talk about that stuff. You want to promote it real quick?
Grayson Real Estate. We're huge. I have 33 subscribers.
You do good stuff on there. I find it entertaining. I mean, I think you're funny as hell anyway, but there's some good information on there. And
I try to be informative, and then I also cuss at the neighbors.
Yeah.
There are some F-bombs in there, just an FYI for I know we're in the Bible Belt down there, but I'm very direct and an abrasive individual.
Yeah, I think people still curse in Arkansas. I may be wrong, okay, but I think so.
Yeah, just to, I don't know why I'm on this show, and I think a lot of people,
comic relief, entertainment purposes.
When they come on, they're like, who the hell is this random person, this random fan out in Phoenix? And I was a really big deal the last time Arkansas was good at football in 2011.
Yeah, you had a moment. You definitely had a moment of stardom.
It's like, yeah, it peaked pretty.
It crashed with Bobby Petrino's motorcycle, I think.
Yeah, I did not take that firing well either. But I will say it did have some of this. I don't know how it had any staying power, but I was back in Arkansas, and I think Pete can attest to this. I met Pete out for a beer. No less than 3 people came up during the hour and was like, excuse me, sorry to interrupt, are you whiskey drunk? Like, it was really random. 12 people total. I was counting. The celebrity is hard to deal with. This fame is unbearable.
Hey, what do you think about Arkansas recruiting? They brought in Vernon Broughton, or bringing in Vernon Broughton today. No, that was last night. Defensive tackle out of Houston, Cy Ridge.
So here's what's happening there is I think a lot of people are going to get a little frustrated this season because they are swinging for the fences, as I mentioned before, and that kid's going to Texas. Probably. So we're going after kids. We're getting kids on campus, but we're in dogfights with the big guys now. So it's not, we got a lot of people. We're going after a lot of recruits that are heavy leans to A&M, Texas, and LSU. And then we're not to that point where we can pull out anybody and beat A&M head-to-head in a recruiting battle, So we're really taking it to Baylor. Dear God, have you seen the amount of –
Baylor fans are not happy with Arkansas.
We're 5-0 against them this year or something in recruits. So
Pierce Crawford being a big one. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they've got some big-time recruits committed right now. Most of the guys are in the 500 range. You don't see so many highly rated guys like they had last year early on, but they're still a top 20 class in the country right now. It's hard to recruit off a 2-10 record. I thought Jeff Traylor said it best when he was like, I want to see what we do off a winning record, when we finally get things turned around. And I'll talk a little bit later about Chad Morris, or we can talk about it right now. Just, Chad Morris was at SEC Media Days, SEC Spring Meetings in Destin this week, and one of the topics, a reporter asked him, is it easier to recruit nationally at Arkansas? And he's like, well, no, that's not what our focus is. Our focus is regional recruiting: Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Tennessee. That's our footprint. And I thought he made some great points because he kind of compared it to Clemson when Clemson was kind of building things up. And I think Clemson, when he arrived at Clemson was a little bit better shape than Arkansas, but Clemson was focused on Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, that region. And now, only really recently, have they been able to just spread their wings and start recruiting nationally. But with Arkansas, it's imperative to get into Texas. In 17 months, he signed 18 players from the state of Texas, including transfers. And compare that to, what was it? It was less than 12 when he took over. Less than 12.
I thought it was like 5 or something on the roster.
It's like 7 or 8 or something. I mean, it was a dramatically low number, and that was one of the downfalls of Brett Bielema, not recruiting Texas, or trying to recruit Texas, but not putting the right resources there, not hiring a coach with a strong background to Texas, and just kind of.
I don't know. I think I'm back on the train of you got to look at their physical makeup too. If they're not a jogger, I don't think they get the hire now. You can't have dudes like Bielema anymore.
What about Sam Pittman?
Get rid of him.
More than one
he's,
way
he's an offensive line coach. I think it's specific to the position you coach. If you're a line guy, you can look like Charlie Weiss.
Okay. I got you. All right, Keith Grayson joining us here. Let's see what else we got for you, Keith. I wanted to bring up Jacob Kaner real quick because he took a visit yesterday, a tight end prospect out of Tyler Junior College who's a walk-on candidate but had a really good visit to Arkansas. So Jacob Kaner might be a guy to watch. You got anything else you want to bring up, Keith, before I let you go?
I want Haynes King. I want the I put me in the that category of why don't we use that relationship? Or do you think there's a possibility they're going to bring in two? I mean, how?
I don't, and I think bringing in Nick Starkel made it to where they don't necessarily need to do that. But here's the deal with Haynes King and Chandler Morris: they're not coming to the same school. They're just not, And it almost feels because it almost feels like a given that Chandler Morris will eventually commit to Arkansas. You don't want to say that, but it would have to be a situation where he's like, "Hey, Dad, I don't think I want to go to Arkansas," and have that conversation because I think they're counting on him, and I don't think it's a slam dunk that if Chandler says, "Hey, I want to go to, Oklahoma or Florida State or something," I don't think it's a slam dunk that they could get Haynes King just because the recruiting is just improving and improving. And I think they'd have a shot if it came down to that. But you recently watched his video or something? Because he's got all the tools. I mean, he can run, throw. I mean,
and the other thing is, I look at it like this. I don't want LSU to actually have a quarterback. I don't want that kid going to LSU. Or A&M doesn't need another one like that. They'll
screw him up or something if he goes to LSU. No, they don't have a great track record. For a team that produces so many athletes, LSU does not have a track record for quarterbacks. But the landscape is changing so much, and they got Joe Burrow there now, who's a pretty good quarterback. But you look at what teams are doing now, you can just go out and grab a quarterback who's been in college, been in the system, like Oklahoma has done. Oklahoma's last three quarterbacks, including Jalen Hurts coming up here, have been transfers, and two of them won the Heisman. So the landscape for college quarterbacks has changed dramatically, especially with graduate transfers. I mean, if you can get in early and like redshirt your first year and then graduate in 3 years or something, you end up with 2 years of eligibility left. That's like getting a junior college guy without sometimes the junior college baggage. I mean, they've been in a major college system before. So
it's so transient that I could totally see Dalton Hyatt, John Stephen Jones leaving, and then Connor Nolan going exclusively to baseball or something like that, and we have this huge quarterback room, and then we lose 3 in a year.
Somebody will transfer, Keith. I mean, it happens every single time that there is a turnover with the quarterback job. Somebody transfers out.
I know you're trying to get off, and you guys talked about basketball recruiting earlier, but I'm really excited about. I like the Jimmy Witt deal, and I like having him combined with Isaiah Moss because when you don't have a 5 per se. If Connor Vanover doesn't get the transfer or waiver, then you're going to have guards that rebound. So, like you have mentioned before, in positionless basketball, everybody's got to do everything. They all got to shoot threes, and they all got to rebound. They all got to defend pretty much every position on the floor. So that kid, Jimmy, is a really good defender. We know that. Everybody's kind of honing in on the three-point thing, but I think that Musselman is looking at how we're going to get the team total rebounds up, offensive rebounding up, and stuff like that. So I like it from that perspective. And the Justice Hill thing, I don't know any of the facts on that, but if he does go to a walk-on, it's because you can transfer out without sitting out the year after that. I would look for that too.
Yeah, I can't associate my name with still stuff just for
You're still not,
fear of getting.
on that.
I'm not clear of it yet. I did not report
Trey
that.
of 103.7 The Buzz.
Yeah, not this Trey.
We had dinner with Trey Schapp one time. Yeah. I wasn't that impressed.
Dude, Trey's a good guy. I don't know, on the information and stuff, but
we got to start some beef between other people in the sports media. I've been good the past 3 or 4 shows. I'm ready to start a war between, kind of like an Anchorman-esque battle royale in the streets of Fayetteville.
Hey, who are I don't mean to change the subject on you. Can you name 2 other players in any sport that left Arkansas and came back? Left Arkansas, played for another school, and came back. I know you can do it.
Alex Mortensen and
you got Alex Mortensen. You can get the other one. What?
Well, it's Sunday out of bio,
Sunday
right?
Out of
but
bio.
You're saying other sports.
Any sport.
Basketball.
Any sport. Yeah, Sonny Adebayo, who did it because the NCAA screwed him over, and
me,
allowed to come back.
And me, I went to Fort Lewis College, then I went to ULR, or no, I went to Arkansas, then ULR, then back to Arkansas.
Oh, okay.
4 colleges, 5 years, and no degree.
You're doing pretty well for yourself.
I'm doing all right.
Yeah, you're doing good. All right, Keith, I want to thank you for joining us, man. Appreciate you.
All right, take care. See you.
All right, see you. So that was Keith Grayson. Keith has been with us a long time at hogsports.com. One of our, he's funny. The guy's funny. He provides good takes and has been with us a long time. So I like having him on the show. I hope you guys enjoy having Keith on with us. So to jump back into things real quick, I don't want to lose my spot. We talked about the people visiting. Jalin Polk. We haven't talked about him, wide receiver out of Lufkin, Texas, who has named 4 teams as his favorite. And where are his 4 teams? Arkansas, Arizona. Where are his 4 teams? Arkansas, Arizona, Texas Tech, and Baylor are his 4 teams. So Arkansas already has, 3 wide receivers committed right now. I can't see them taking more than 4. 4 even seems like a lot when you consider all the other positions that they have out there. You also have Colin Sullivan, who's a 4-star wide receiver out of Round Rock, Texas, who Arkansas offered over a year ago. And there's a lot of people who have him going to Arkansas. So a lot of people think Jalin Polk is going to Arkansas. A lot of people think Colin Sullivan, Alex Abrams. I mean, there's a lot of wide receivers out there that people think are close to committing to Arkansas right now. So who gets that last spot? It's a good position to be in. They had a big recruiting class last year, and they brought in some really strong wide receivers this year, and potentially another one. I mean, either one of those guys, any one of those guys that they end up getting would be huge. And can they keep Zevion Capers, who's taking other visits and stuff? Some things upcoming with Arkansas football. Some important dates. We've got the end of the spring evaluation period is actually today, May 31st, when this is being recorded. So that's the end of the spring evaluation period. You've got some satellite camps coming up in East Texas, or Beast Texas, they like to call it, Beast Texas Mega Camp. You got Sam Houston State Camp on June 1st that coaches will be at. Then at Arkansas, you've got a specialist camp. You've got a Big Cap Mega Camp on June 9th. June 10th, you have a youth camp. June 10th to 11th is the high school overnight camp. Usually a lot of good prospects for that. A lot of younger prospects you'll see also. Speaking of younger, June 12th to the 13th, junior high overnight camp. Final spring official visits are June 12th to the 14th. That's when Colin Sullivan and some other players are coming in. And that'll kind of coincide with like Arkansas's Trench Hogs Passing Academy. And then you got the Hog Wild Elite Camp on June 15th. That'll be a big one. And then that's pretty much it for the camp circuit for Arkansas. So it's just like 2 weeks of hard camp schedules. I mean, just like almost every day for a long time there, sometimes 2 in a day. And that doesn't include some other satellite camps that there's possibly going to be. I think there's a big one in Memphis coming up too. So, and you got SEC Media Days on June 15th to 18th. I've already booked my ticket and hotel room for that. And kickoff cookout on July 26th. We'll probably see some commitments right before that. They like to get some guys who are privately committed to commit right before that to kind of kick things off and then pull some guys in right after that. So that's where we are on upcoming dates. So Chad Morris was at SEC Spring Meetings. We talked a little bit about that, him relying on regional recruiting, so I won't go into that too much more. But I thought it was some interesting comments from Chad Morris just about focusing on Texas, focusing on Arkansas, Oklahoma, particularly Tulsa, Tennessee, particularly Memphis and East Tennessee, Louisiana, of course, so they've done a great job, especially they did a great job in there last year. Talked a lot about quarterbacks when he was in Destin, and just kind of how the quarterback battle starts with this offseason, with offseason leadership that's going on right now. And you've got Ben Hicks and Nick Starkel. Obviously, Ben Hicks having a long history, playing 3 years under Chad Morris at SMU, quarterback to 2-10 team. So that's kind of interesting to think about. He knows how to bring a team out of 2-10. Didn't exactly like set the world on fire. They won like 5 games the next year and then 7 the year after that. But maybe that experience will help Ben Hicks maybe bring it further. But the real thing is the competition. You got Nick Starkel coming in, who's got a big arm, a lot of talent, probably a higher ceiling, has won in the SEC, threw for 499 yards in his last game as a starter, 4 touchdown interception and a 55-52 loss to Wake Forest in the Belk Bowl. But he's a guy that won the starting job at Texas A&M as a redshirt freshman. So there's some positives there with Nick Starkel. And I bring up that 499 yards a lot, and the reason I do that is because I don't know that Arkansas had a quarterback last year who could put up 499 yards in a game. So definitely upgraded the quarterback situation. KJ Jefferson, history says that KJ Jefferson will not be a day one starter for Arkansas just based on not enrolling in the spring. But KJ Jefferson is a guy that could emerge eventually. I just think he's got some things he can work on mechanically, a little raw, but he still was the all-time leading passer in Mississippi history. So those three guys I think are players to watch. And, of course, Connor Nolan, who's with the baseball team. What will that set him back not having gone through spring drills and being with baseball so long? But Connor Nolan, the guy started a game last year. So, but it starts with the offseason. So a lot of people have asked about how the offseason works, and really, you've got designated times that you're working voluntarily. These are all voluntary workouts. So you've got designated times where you can work with the players, with the strength and conditioning staff. And actually the coaches can spend some more time now. This is actually just as of the last couple of years. In the summer, the coaches can work with the players without a ball, but they can do some stuff with them. So it's not just like, all right, after spring football, send you off for the summer and we'll see you in August. It's not that anymore. They actually get to work with the players a little bit. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. And then the players organize their workouts. And the way coaches organize the spring is they actually had 2 practices after the red-white game, and a lot of the reason is just to kind of show the players what they expect of them in the offseason. So the quarterbacks lead the throwing drills and things like that, so that's where it starts. And Chad Morris talked about Taj Boyd, Deshaun Watson at Clemson, guys that really took over the program in the offseason going into successful seasons there. So quarterback battle starts now for Arkansas. Chad Morris talked a little bit about college football free agency, as we're calling it, with the transfer portal. And the thing that he brought up that I didn't really realize, I'd always understood it as a player who wants to transfer has to inform the coaching staff, and they have, or the staff in general, and they have 5 business days to get the player's name in the transfer portal, which was really just an opportunity to get their information out there for other coaches that want to say, okay, this guy can help us, we'll contact him. But the way it really works is they don't have to talk to the coach at all. It's probably a good idea to talk to your coach and have that conversation, but all they have to do is go to the compliance office and say, hey, I want to transfer out. And Morris has said a couple of times he's looked on Twitter and a kid's name has been, that he's transferring. I don't like that. I think most people would agree that's not a good way to do business. I don't like a lot of the things about the way transferring is right now. I don't like that players are parlaying the 4-game redshirt rule to graduate transfer somewhere else. If you want to transfer in the offseason. Okay, don't transfer when your team is counting on you. I know that things happen. You lose a quarterback job, you lose your position, things like that. But, that's just part of life, That's just part of it. And you see so many players redshirting themselves after 4 games, and then they'll go to the compliance department and say, hey, I want out of here, and then the coach finds out about it later. That's not a good look for college football. Quitting in the middle of your season on your team is not a good look for college football. It just isn't. They've got to change something, and I've said before, I think they should use something like with coupon codes where you can't use this offer with any other special. So if you want to do the 4-game redshirt rule, you don't get to use the redshirt. You don't get to transfer out. And if you want to transfer, you can't use 4-game redshirt rule. That's the answer to that. Simple. So fix it, NCAA. Fix it. It's not good for college football. And all 4-player rights, I've said before, I think the system should be something to where you can transfer and get immediate eligibility if you've been, you got halfway through your college football season and things aren't going the right way at the school you're at, because the coach would probably be just as well with you moving on anyway. So let players move without restriction after a couple years. I don't think that should hold with freshmen. I think freshmen should still have to sit out a year because there needs to be something that says, hey, man, pump the brakes a little bit. Don't just leave at the first sign of adversity. Stick it through, unless there's always extenuating circumstances. So I'm just talking about in general. So, I did a little breakdown. How much time do we have left here? Oh, we got a little bit of time. Did a little breakdown on Razorback breakout players position by position, and this is something that I think that Arkansas needs these guys to break out. So let's go over that real quick. I went with quarterback with Nick Starkel. And, again, this is players that Arkansas needs to break out, not predictions, okay? And I say Nick Starkel because he, to me, has the highest upside of the quarterbacks. So he's got a little bit of a late start behind Ben Hicks, but I think that that's a guy that could break out. Chase Hayden at running back, and I say that because Chase Hayden was the next big thing at Arkansas. He was the next big thing at Arkansas as a freshman until he broke his leg. Numbers dipped pretty good last year, really the 3rd back on the team. But Chase Hayden, I think if he could emerge and become that guy that we thought he was going to be, as a freshman, then that would be huge for Arkansas. Didn't have a great year last year. Wide receiver Trey Knox, pump the brakes a little bit because no wide receiver freshman has caught more than 37 passes in a season. So if you're expecting like 40 catches out of Trey Knox, that may be a little bit much. I almost called him Moss, but if he could be Arkansas's version of Moss. The thing that stands out about Trey Knox is not just his size, so you knew he was going to be tall, but his quickness with other players, because you don't really know 100% until they get out there against other college players how quick they actually are, and Trey Knox is super quick. Tight end Hudson Henry, they need a good combination. They get Trey Knox out on the field with Cheyenne O'Grady, with Hudson Henry. That's some big wide receiver targets, and Hudson's a tight end, but He's more wide receiver than Hunter was, really. Hunter, to me, fit the offense that he was in, and I think Hudson will fit this offense well. Tight end, second hardest position to play on offense, so it's going to be an acclimation period. But if they can get some play out of him early on, that would be big. His brother caught 28 passes his first year. I don't know if we can hold him to that standard, but because C.J. O'Grady, I think, is going to have a big year for Arkansas. Offensive tackle Myron Cunningham, I just think it makes sense you bring in the guy from junior college. I think he's one of the top 5 players. He could end up at guard, but I think Myron Cunningham is the guy to watch at tackle. I think he'll eventually move into the starting lineup. Offensive line, Shane Clennon on the offensive interior. Clennon has all the ability in the world. The thing that stood out to me talking about him before he hurt his foot, and he's back, he played in the spring game, but the thing that stood out to me with Shane is just he seems to get it now. I think mentally he wasn't quite ready to step into that role in the past, and now that seems to be the thing that he's most confident in. And he has the size. I mean, he's 6'6", and one of those guys that's all a 6'6". He's a get off the bus first type of guy, and I think he's listed at 300, but he looks much bigger than that. Good looking player. That's what you want at guard. Defensive line, Dorian Gerald, who arrived at 285 pounds last year, down to 267, probably down past that. That was pretty early in spring football when he said that. So he's lost some weight, but added some muscle at the same time. Coming in so late and out of shape, took him a while to get acclimated, and then the last 2 games of the season, he started, allowed McTelvin again to move into his natural position at defensive tackle, and that's a benefit for McTelvin, knowing, all right, this is where we're putting you. This is your role with this team versus moving back and forth, so he can prepare to be a defensive tackle at Arkansas. And Dorian Gerald, always impressed with his junior college video, so hopefully he gets things in order. They need linebacker. So Bumper Pool has got to step up at linebacker, because if he doesn't, they're in real trouble. They're already thin there, so if he's not a stud, then they're in trouble. And we saw a lot of good things out of Bumper Pool in the last season, and it takes linebackers a year to cook before they stop making just general mistakes. So Joe Fouché at safety is kind of the same reason. Arkansas doesn't have a whole lot of body. I mean, they've got some bodies, but he's the guy that's shown the most promise. So Joe Fouché at safety, free safety, they need him to step up. And cornerback Monteric Brown, Arkansas pretty young at cornerback. So Monteric Brown, Jarquez McClellan are both redshirt sophomores. So they need both of those guys to have a good season. But behind them, you're talking about Ladarius Bishop, who's a redshirt freshman, Devin Bush, who's a true freshman, early enrollee. So you get pretty young there at cornerback. They need to have a big defensive back recruiting class this year. So those are my guys at each position for Arkansas, guys that Arkansas needs to have a breakout season. Not guys that I'm necessarily projecting, but if they can get that out of them, then you feel good about where Arkansas is from in terms of bowling. Also did a story on top Arkansas offensive signees over the past decade. So that starts in 2009. So it's after that heralded 2008 class with Jarius Wright and Joe Adams and Tyler Wilson and all those guys. So the quarterback is Brandon Allen. Brandon Allen, who was probably the most chastised quarterback in the history of Arkansas football. I mean, he's up there, and then ended his career with a national second in the country in 166.5 pass efficiency rating, led the SEC. That's 85th all-time in college football history. 85th all-time. So definitely had a great senior year there. An honorable mention nod to Austin Allen. Running backs, went with Nile Davis and Alex Collins, although you can make a strong argument for Jonathan Williams and Raleigh Williams too. I mean, the thing about Nile is he really just had a moment. It was really just like an 8-game stretch where he kind of took over the starting role and then, ran for 1,300 yards. And, of course, Alex Collins rushing for more yards than any player in school history not named Darren McFadden. But Raleigh Williams, Jonathan Williams both have claims. The thing that's interesting about this 4-man list is every single one of those players missed an entire season with an injury except for Alex Collins, who declared early. But all those other players missed a full season of action with an injury. So, and really, Raleigh Williams missed too. I mean, he had a career-ending neck injury. So, wide receiver Kobe Hamilton, Keon Hatcher, and Drew Morgan. I went 3 deep there. I couldn't pick between Keon and Drew. Both those guys had, kind of right there at the same time. Both very reliable. Drew had that 10 touchdown year where he led the SEC. Kobe Hamilton had 90 catches one year, school record, 1,335 yards, 5 touchdowns. 1,335 is a school record also. So, those 3 wide receivers. Tight ends, an easy one, Hunter Henry. And Jeremy Sprinkle, A.J. Derby, Cheyenne O'Grady, C.J. O'Grady. That's 3 good honorable mentions there, but you got to go with the Mackey Award winner and Hunter Henry. Offensive linemen, Frank Ragnow, Travis Swanson, Sebastian Tretola, Denver Kirkland, Alvin Bailey. That's my 5 right there, and I give an honorable mention nod to Dan Skipper and Yelda Froholt. 2 solid honorable mention candidates. But, I mean, you look at the 5 that I mentioned, all of them spent time in the NFL. What's interesting about Denver Kirkland and Alvin Bailey, both of those guys declared early for the NFL draft, and neither were drafted, and both ended up making teams. Sebastian Tretola arrived at Arkansas at 370 pounds. We talk about Rakeem Boyd arriving late and having to get acclimated, and they put 15 pounds on him in 2 months, and then Dorian Gerald needing to lose weight because he arrived so late. And then you have Sebastian Tretola. I mean, it just shows you with junior college players, it's important to get them in early. So big that Arkansas got Myron Cunningham and Chibozie and Wana in early so they could go through the spring and, not sit around, because really in junior college there's not a lot of off-season type of help for these guys, and that's why you see sometimes they end up showing up out of shape. But Sebastian Tretola, prime example, guy that was 370 pounds, and I think ended up under 320 when he was drafted. So kicker, Zach Hawker, no question. Zach Hawker is the kicker, 77.2%. On his 4 years, 61 to 79 on field goal attempts, and scored 354 points, and also sniffed the NFL. 10 of 14 all time with along with 51 with 9 touchbacks in the NFL. So that's where we are right now. All right, everybody, I want to remind you real quick again, if you have not thrown us a thumbs up, then please do so. Throw us that thumbs up, like, share, comment, follow. It helps us get our message out there. If you are listening on podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Stitcher, be sure to throw us 5 stars. Throw us that review. It really helps us, again, get our rating out. Same for Facebook Live and YouTube. Throw us that thumbs up. So that's pretty much it. Let's see if we got any questions left here. I don't want to miss anybody's questions, but I know we got a few here. Excited to watch the baseball game. Barbara Ann Smith says, hi, Barbara Ann Smith. Mark Campbell, thoughts on Jimmy Witt? We covered that. Just saw it. Rency Hill says, we need another big bat. I agree that they need some help down low, but at the same time, I don't know, it feels like a little bit of positionless basketball for next year, unless they can get Connor Vanover eligible. But I think that they're a little thin down low. I mean, if you consider Daniel Gafford is actually 6'9", like he checked in, then how tall is Reggie Chaney, who I think will play a big role for him last year. Anything on Isaiah Moss, says Billy Gaithright? I haven't heard anything except for rumors that people talking like he might return to Iowa. That's all I've heard, but Arkansas's already commented on him. I think, if I had to guess, I think he ends up at Arkansas. How bad do you think, says Dustin Hoofman, how bad do you think it would blow the minds of the SEC haters if 5 teams make it to the College World Series? That would be fun. I mean, that's all about all I've got to say about it. But SEC is strong in baseball. Galen Brown says, love the Hogs. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Had some fun with Pete Roulier, Keith Grayson, always entertaining. Again, I want to remind you, if you haven't signed up at hogsports.com, right now, you can get Hog Sports for $1 for your first month. Or you can sign up for a year and get 30% off, and that comes with a 7-day free trial. So barely anything to lose with hogsports.com. And Danny West coming back from vacation next week, so he'll be back on the recruiting trail. Hopefully he'll be revived. Usually when Danny comes back from vacation, he's ready to get it over with. Actually was working at Orange Beach, did a recruit interview. There was a recruit that happened to be at Orange Beach. So Danny West, the hardest working man in Razorback recruiting. I don't know, this coaching staff's pretty hard. They give him a little bit of a challenge. Definitely keep him on his toes. So, all right, for Pete Roulier, for Keith Grayson, this has been Trey Biddy with hogsports.com, and we'll catch you next time.